The mail has never once had your address on it. Not because you moved recently, not because you forgot to update something, but because your address, technically, does not exist. The city you wake up in every morning has no zip code recognized by any national postal system, no coordinates on any public map, no Wikipedia page. No Google Street View car has ever driven down your street. And yet here you are, waking up, brushing your teeth, watching the fog roll in over the perimeter fence like it does every single morning at 6:14 a.m. You were born here. That is the part most people on the outside would never understand. This was not a choice you made. You did not stumble upon this place. You did not receive a mysterious invitation or follow a stranger down a hidden corridor. You were simply born inside a system that the rest of the world decided, at some point, it was easier to forget. The city is called Sector 7 by the people who built it. Everyone who lives here just calls it the interior. It has 340,000 residents. It has hospitals, schools, a functioning transit system, 3 newspapers, and 2 football teams with a rivalry that goes back 40 years. It has coffee shops and arguments about local politics and teenagers who are bored on Friday nights. It has everything a real city has, except one thing, a legal identity. You learn this slowly. The way you learn everything here, in pieces, through silence, through the questions adults stop answering once you reach a certain age. You are 8 years old the first time you ask your father why your birth certificate looks different from the ones you see in textbooks at school. He is quiet for longer than usual. Then he folds the document carefully, places it back in the metal box under the floorboard, and says, "Because we are a different kind of people." You do not ask again. Not for years. But you start noticing things. The roads leading out of the interior are real. You can see them from the eastern ridge on clear days. A highway cutting through flat terrain toward the horizon. Trucks come in twice a week through the northern gate. Supply trucks, medical shipments, electronic components. They arrive before dawn and leave before the city fully wakes. The drivers never get out. You have never seen one of their faces. The teachers at your school are careful, not unkind, careful. There are subjects they teach with enormous detail: mathematics, engineering, chemistry, biology, languages. The interior produces specialists. That is the word they use. Specialists. The kind of people who are very good at very specific things that the outside world needs done quietly and without credit. You are 17 when you understand what that means. There is a board posted inside the administration building on Central Avenue. It is updated every 6 months. It lists available placement programs. The closest thing the interior has to a college application process. Except you are not applying to universities. You are applying to roles inside projects that have no public names. The board uses codes. Program 4 Alpha, Program 9, Program 12. Everyone in the interior knows that Program 12 is the infrastructure division. The engineers and architects who design facilities that appear on no public blueprint. You apply for Program 4 Alpha because your scores in pattern recognition and systems analysis are the highest in your cohort. You do not know exactly what Program 4 Alpha does. Nobody tells you until you are already in. You are 18 when you sign the first document. It is 43 pages long. It covers, in clinical and exhaustive language, the terms of your participation in what the document refers to as a closed urban research and development jurisdiction. It uses words like voluntary continuance and patriotic contribution and mutually beneficial arrangement. It does not once use the word secret. You sign it. Everyone signs it. What is the alternative? Program 4 Alpha is the communication division. Your job, your actual daily technical job, is to manage the encrypted relay systems that allow the interior to communicate with the outside. Not with the public, not with ordinary citizens of the country that technically owns this land, with specific departments, specific people, specific operations that require information processed and routed through a city that, if anything ever goes wrong, cannot be traced back to anyone. Because it does not exist. You sit in a building that looks like an ordinary office block on the outside. Inside, on the 3rd floor, there are 47 terminals. Each terminal connects to a different relay node. Each node corresponds to a different external operation. You do not know the full scope of what passes through those nodes. You are only responsible for your assigned cluster. Terminals 12 through 19. On a Tuesday in October, a message comes through Terminal 14 that is flagged for manual review. You almost wrote it automatically, but something in the metadata catches your eye. The encryption signature is slightly irregular. Not wrong. Just slightly different from the pattern you have seen for the past 8 months. You flag it. You pass it to your supervisor, a quiet man named Davan, who has worked in this building for 22 years. He looks at the flag. He looks at you. He nods once and says, "Good catch. Don't mention it." You do not mention it, but you start paying closer attention to Terminal 14. 3 weeks later, the message pattern is different again, not dramatically. A few milliseconds off in the relay timing. A slightly altered header sequence. Nothing that would trigger an automated alert. Only something a human being who had been staring at the same terminal for months would notice. You notice. You begin keeping a private log. Not on the system, on paper. You write down the timing differences, the header variations, the days they occur and the days they do not. You keep the paper folded inside the back cover of a novel you carry to work. Nobody searches you. Nobody has ever had a reason to search anyone in this building. After 6 weeks, a pattern emerges. The irregular signals from Terminal 14 are not errors. They are intentional. Someone on the outside is embedding a secondary message inside the standard relay traffic. A message inside the message. And it is addressed, if you are reading the encoding correctly, to a specific residential block inside the interior. Block 9. You live in Block 9. You do not sleep well for the next 4 days. You run the pattern again every night on paper, cross-referencing your notes with the timing sequences you have memorized. You are not wrong. The signal is real. The address is real. But the block number alone means nothing. Block 9 has over 4,000 residents. On the 5th day, you make a decision you know you cannot undo. Before your shift ends, you do something you have never done before. You access the routing archive for Terminal 14. You are technically authorized. Your clearance covers all terminals in your cluster. But nobody accesses the routing archive without a formal request. It is one of those unwritten rules that everyone in the interior understands without being told. You go in anyway. What you find is 18 months of irregular signal traffic, all with the same embedded encoding, all addressed to Block 9, and buried inside the oldest entry, a message fragment that survived incomplete decryption, are 4 words you recognize immediately. Your mother's name. You sit very still for a long time. Your mother died when you were 11. That is what you were told. A medical event. Sudden. The interior's hospital recorded it. There was a small service. You remember the gray sky that day, the way the perimeter fence looked from the chapel window, the specific sound of your father crying in the next room that night. She died. You watched them bury her in the Eastern Cemetery, Section C, Row 14. But someone on the outside has been sending encoded signals to Block 9 for 18 months, and her name is inside the oldest one. You close the archive. You log out. You pick up your novel and walk home through the late afternoon streets of a city that does not exist, and you think about every version of reality that could explain what you just found, and none of them are comfortable. None of them allow you to go back to the person you were this morning. You pass the Eastern Cemetery on your way home. You stop at the gate. You look at Section C, Row 14. The headstone is there. It has always been there. You stand there until the light changes. The next morning you do not go to work. You walk to the administration building on Central Avenue instead. You ask to see Devan. The woman at the front desk tells you is unavailable. You say it is urgent. She makes a call. She tells you he will be available tomorrow morning. You say, tell him it's about Terminal 14. She makes another call. The call is longer. When she hangs up, she does not look at you the way she did a moment ago. He can see you now, she says. Devan's office is smaller than you imagined. He has worked in that building for 22 years and his office has 1 window, 1 plant and a desk with nothing on it but a telephone and a glass of water. He gestures for you to sit. He does not ask you what you found. He does not ask why you accessed the routing archive. He simply looks at you with the expression of a man who has been waiting for a specific conversation for a long time and is relieved, in some quiet and complicated way, that it has finally arrived. How much did you piece together? He asks. You tell him everything, the timing irregularities, the embedded encoding, the residential address, the name. He listens without interrupting. When you finish, he is quiet for a moment. You're not the first person to find it, he says. You're the 4th in 18 months. You ask him what happened to the other 3. He picks up the glass of water. He takes a slow sip. He sets it down carefully. They were reassigned, he says, to a different program. Which one? He looks at you for a long time. One that doesn't have a number? He says. You leave his office with more questions than you arrived with, and the specific, cold understanding that you have crossed a threshold you cannot uncross. The city you have lived in your entire life. The streets you know, the coffee shop on Meridian where you go on Sunday mornings, the cemetery in the east, The perimeter fence you have pressed your face against since childhood. All of it is the same, physically unchanged. But the architecture of what it means has shifted. And you can feel that shift in your chest, like a change in air pressure before a storm. You do not know what happened to the other 3 people who found the signal. You do not know what program has no number. You do not know if the grave in section C, row 14 holds what you were told it holds. But you know one thing with complete clarity: you are going to find out. Not because you are brave, not because you have a plan, but because the alternative, going back to Terminal 14 and pretending the last 48 hours did not happen, is no longer something your body will allow. The interior has kept its secrets for decades. It kept them from your parents' generation and from the generation before that. It keeps them through silence and through distance and through the simple, suffocating fact that none of you have anywhere else to go. But someone on the outside has been trying to get a message in. And they used your mother's name to do it. You walk home. The fog is coming in early today. It moves across the perimeter fence in slow, deliberate waves, the way it always does, the way it always has, as long as you can remember. The city does not exist, but whatever is buried inside it does. And now so do you.